Bum, bum, bum. Let me hear you say whale, whale. All right, guys, welcome to the live stream. Do you like the flashing lights? Somebody yesterday told me to curb my enthusiasm, and I strongly disagree with it. So today I thought we'd have some flashy lights to begin with, and we would start off with a bit of energy. Because honestly, guys, I refuse to ever curb my enthusiasm for my tribe, for my audience, and for what we're doing, because it's critical. And you're going to discover why in today's session. And I'm just going to kind of fling these over there and flick the light on so that you guys can see me. Hurrah! Okay, so let's just dive straight into today's session, because that took me ages to work out how to get it so you could see the little flashy lights there. Okay, today we are talking about audience. We're talking about how to make them view your event as their dream date and how they want to kind of get involved. And we're diving into what the audience actually wants and the type of audience we need. Now, for the people who are watching who are already inside Experience Event Masterclass, guys, we're going to dig right into this inside Experience Event Masterclass. This is a very, very high level view to get your brains thinking. For anybody who's watching who's not in part of inside Experience Event Masterclass, first of all, why not? Let's hop on a call. Let's talk it out. Secondly, and most importantly, again, we are starting to just touch on things here because your audience and the audience that you are aiming to attract and the work you do at this level is critical to the success of any virtual event you host. There are people that skip this level a lot and they go, oh yeah, I know my audience, and they dive straight in, and they are the guys that end up with egg on their faces because they just don't get the audience, and the audience kind of don't really understand them and what they want. So it's critical that we make sure we get this nailed. I'm liking the glow stick. Somebody's saying there, excited for day 3. Lisa, I'm going to just put your comment on screen because I love it. Lisa's saying she's so excited for day 3 in the EEM class to begin. And no, I'm so excited for our call together, Lisa. It's all exciting. Ellie has just said, I just waited to come in and tell you that I'll have to watch the replay. I have to disconnect. Good night and have fun. Chris is saying about glow sticks. Guys, I'm glad you like the glow sticks. I have lots of them because when I was at Funnel Hacking Live way back in January and we all had them and it was 5,000 of us in a room, pitch black, bouncing up and down with them, I was just like, I have to bring some home, mainly for my daughter. Yeah, completely was not for me. Okay, so let's just dive in there, guys, and let's get started. As always, feel free to pop anything into the comments and we can talk about it. So have you got your workbooks open? Give me a 1 if you've got your workbook with you and open. If not, then make sure that you comment below. And if you haven't seen any of the things from Team Lindsay, who are busy working away in the background, then they will drop you a link if you need the workbook, because you don't need to opt in, you can just download it. So talking about our workbook then, talking about what we're doing today. So our entire topic today is all about defining this virtual event audience, okay? Because like I said, that is mission critical. The most critical element in the success of your event is your audience. So answer number 1 for your workbook there, guys. It is what they want, okay? And what they think they want and their experience. Their experience versus what they think they want are 2 very different things, but they kind of connect like that, really. Because your audience, when you're marketing to them, when you're calling them into your event, they are coming because they have a very specific thing that they want, but that may not actually be what they need, okay? They may need something else, and it's your job as the host to know that and to give them that really positive experience. Because when we have our audience and we are working with them and we are connecting with them, you know, and I always think back about your relationships with your friends, family, and other people here, the shared experience is what keeps you bonded and connected. When people talk about audience a lot and developing audiences and marketing to them, they talk about telling your story, and that's critical. It always is critical. But your story is about historic things, and you are connecting to historic things in your audience's past, things they may have felt, and that is important. But what is equally as important is you create new memories with them, because your audience, when you want to create that deep connection, that die-hard, true raving fans, where it is that we've done this together, that is where you really bond them. That's where you move beyond what everybody else is doing, because everybody else is just talking about how they think and how they feel, which is great, and we need that. But they're not looking at creating those shared experiences. And the shared experiences, when you think about your friends and family, they are the things that you then laugh about later. They are the things that you build those relationships upon. And it's when you stop talking about them and creating those shared experiences that kind of, those connections drift away, that, you know, friendships, you kind of, they don't disappear, but they kind of dissolve in the background a little, or, you know, you don't get together as often. And slowly that relationship dwindles. And it's not that you've fallen out. It's not that you don't like them. It's just that those shared experiences have stopped happening. You've stopped recalling them. And that's when you start to get that disconnect. So when we're talking to our audience, we need to think of them as our friends, people that we actually would like to go and spend, you know, a week with on a holiday in some villa in lockdown or something, people that we want to spend time with. Because if you don't, and if you're trying to call an audience into you to work with you and to be a part of what you're trying to do, and you don't want to spend time with them, you don't want that level of relationship, then you're calling in the wrong audience. Because deep down, that's where we have to get to. We have to get to who is it we would like to spend that time with. I talk to so many people each week where they literally are obsessed about, oh, it doesn't matter what my niche is. I don't, you know, I just want to make money doing what I do and I like doing this. Yeah, that's great. But who is it you talk to? You know, so many people talk about your ideal client, your dream client, and who are they and what are they? That's great. But we need to go beyond that. That's surface level stuff. We need to go beyond that and start getting personal. And sometimes this can put up resistances from you and from, you know, your role as that host, as that leader, and as that expert, because you have to get very comfortable with who is it you want and who is it you're willing to let go. So an example for that would be, I love you guys. I love everybody that comes and joins me on live stream. I get a real kick out of it. Was I offended yesterday? Somebody popped up and put a, you know, I only told you guys the high level part of that comment yesterday on the live stream. There was another part that was, you know, quite nasty, and it comes up live as I'm talking to you. And it's, oh, does that faze me? No. And it doesn't faze me because they are not this, you know, I just accept that, okay, you might be a nice person to somebody else. Okay, we haven't gelled. Clearly, you're not the person I'm calling into my audience. So I'm okay to let you go. It's what you are calling in. It's where you are looking and the people you're connecting with that we need to really think about. Because when most people plan their virtual events, they say, yeah, my audience are going to be, like for Audience Growth Con, somebody might say, yeah, I just want to connect people who want to build their audience. They're looking to grow online. Okay, that's pretty general. That's quite high level. Who are these people? Because if they are just called at that message, they're going to dip in and dip out. They're not going to be a good experience for the speakers because they're not going to turn up and watch things. They're not going to take part. They're not going to engage in that content because it's too general, because we haven't called them in. That's a bit like me standing in the middle of my hometown and standing on a box and saying, hey, everyone, party at my house, and expecting it to be fun. It's going to end up as a free-for-all, and nobody's going to have fun because it'll be really stressful. And when I talk about event hosting, I like to think of that as you are hosting an event that you would host in your home. Because if you are thinking about your audience at that level, that's where that relationship connection comes in. So for your workbook then, just for those first couple of points, the first one, the most critical element in the success of my event is my audience. What they want, remember this is what they think they want, because that's the reason they're coming, and what they actually experience. Because we have to create with our events and the way we host and the way we call our audience in, we have to create an experience for them. And that's how you create that experience, the people that you're calling in, is a part of defining that audience. It's not just saying, yes, it's a woman aged 30 to 50 and all of this blur that everybody does. It's going deeper. We have to go deeper to make our events successful. Now, in your workbook, you'll see that the next section we talk about the best type of audience is. Now, there's all different things that make up a criteria of a good audience. But the most important is that they are specific and they are engaged. If we talk about a really broad niche and we do not get specific, that audience doesn't feel connected. Okay, it's a bit like inviting a friend of a friend to come to a party. They don't really have that interest. Whereas if I called everyone in and went, guys, we're doing this because I'm really passionate about this and I think you are too. I want you to come and I want us to share this together. They're going to come. Okay, if I said I wanted to throw, I don't know, let's say I wanted to throw a unicorn glittery party, because everyone laughed at that last time. If I threw a giant unicorn themed party and I told everyone that's the theme, and I invited people that were interested in that, they would come. If I just invited every man and his dog, some would come and some would probably turn up to laugh, and it would not be a fun experience. This is what I'm saying. We have to go into the specifics for our audience and get really niche. Now, I'm not saying you get so niche that there are like 4 people in the entire country that do what you do. Okay. My rule of thumb is if you can find places where there are at least 100 people grouped together, then there is enough of an audience there to find elsewhere. But if you are, like, somebody emailed me the other day and she's very, very specific about her niche, and it is a very type of a very, very narrow subculture that she's been trying for years to crack, and so far she's only found 4 other leaders who don't actually lead, they're not active. Is that going to be a niche that we want to build an event in? Is that going to be a niche where we want to call our audience in from? No. But the chances are that there is something related there that if we dig in and we do our research around it properly and we go down the rabbit hole, we want to be Alice, okay? We want to go down the rabbit hole with our audience research. When we do that, that's when we can find those little subcurrents, and there are lots of them in every single niche where we can pull our audience in from. And it's how we speak to them, it's the experiences that we craft for them that help us really define that relationship and really make that personal. So the best type of audience is engaged and specific. Do not be trying to ping everything. Do not say, I'm going to go after all people who want to have a 6-figure business. Because somebody told me that the other day, and I was like, that's great, but it's really, really broad. Okay, if you're saying I want to go after people with a 7-figure business, great. A 7-figure business doing what? Because there's, for example, online, a huge difference between a 7-figure e-commerce business and that type of business owner to a 7-figure holistic coach who has a whole movement behind them. There's very different audiences. So you've got to get specific, and you've got to dive in, and you've got to think about the language that you are using. And there are lots of ways we can find that language from our audience. There's a whole, we will dive into this inside EEM and really cover this, because language is critical. Our messaging is critical, but it's looking at where do we find them. And like I say, there is always somewhere for you. There's always an audience. Trust me, there are always somebody like you in the world with those same interests. It's just finding them and talking to them. And sometimes when we go down that rabbit hole and we become Alice and kind of fall in there, what happens is we become so obsessed about this tiny little thing that we're fixating on that we miss everything else around us. It's like falling down that giant rabbit hole, and you know you're falling in darkness, but you're missing everything that's around you once your eyes have adjusted to the light. That's kind of where we need to take our audience definition from, is looking at what is around us when we stop and we say, right, this is where I've gone, this is my research. Now let's look a little bit further around. What is it that we actually need? Because when we do audience research, we are researching from our point of view, for our benefit. We need to turn the tables and put ourselves in the audience's shoes and research for the audience's benefit. What are they looking for? And this is something that you're probably thinking, you either think, yeah, Lindsay, I 100% get that. You're thinking, my God, Lindsay, you're just on one. Okay. I worked with a company, we white labeled for a very big celebrity agency a few years back. And this company was a multi-8-figure business in the US who were losing 10% of their revenue month upon month after month. And, you know, they'd paid significant amounts of money to the agency that were white labeling for. And basically the agency just kept charging and charging and saying, oh yes, well, it could be this, it could be that, because they didn't want to admit the one thing that we filed in a report to them, which was that the competition were just doing it better because the competition had gone after the experience and were bringing the audience to them because they were calling them in way, way further ahead in that whole start of the relationship. Whereas the people that we were contracted underneath for. We're trying to call people in right at the very end and hoping that that was going to work. It's how you structure yourself, and even the big businesses do not often get this, and that's the reason why a lot of them will fail, and a lot of people's marketing fails very expensively. And it's not because you need crisis management. It's not because you don't understand your audience. It's not because your audience don't like you. It is the way you position things, and have you actually done the research from the audience's point of view coming in. If you haven't done that and you've just looked at your research as, I'm researching for this event because I want to make money off it, that's where it's going to flop. Okay, so that's what we've got to protect. Now, in terms of our audience, for our workbook purposes, the next kind of statement is, this is because I. Now, this is because you know what they want. When you've done the research and your audience properly, you know what it is that they think they want. But you've also gone another step deeper. You've actually looked at what it is when they get what they want, they realize that they actually do want. And I know that's probably a conflicting statement there. And what I mean by that is, when we think we want something. So for example, I've not been very well all week. I've been really tired. I've been taking some steroids. I've been really poorly. I actually thought I had COVID back again at one point this week. Not that you guys would have noticed, because I have plenty of energy on live stream. But like earlier on, I was really tired, and I thought, right, I think I need a Red Bull. I want a Red Bull because I need some energy and I can't stand coffee at the moment. So I had a Red Bull. It did not fix the problem. So what did I want then? Well, actually, I realized that if I haven't got something that's going to give me a massive energy boost to kind of get rid of that lightheadedness because I felt so tired, then actually I need to sleep. And I realized that actually what I had wanted, I did want that because I wanted the byproduct. I actually needed something else, but I didn't understand that until I'd already got what I wanted. And that's the same for you with your audience. You need to know what it is that they think they want. You need to know what it is they actually want when they get what they think they need. And then you actually need to deliver what they need. Because your audience will want two things. The first one they know, the second one they usually don't. And what they need is something else. That's just the nature of people. Okay, we've got to think about these are individuals. These are human beings with thoughts and interactions, all of their own. We group them under this title of an audience, but actually they are individuals. So we've got to think about that. So you know what your audience wants. You know what it is that they need. And most importantly, you know that you can deliver what they need. And this is that part of planning the perfect event and planning a virtual event and an experience that is going to go way beyond the competition and way beyond anything else that's out there. Because when you know that you can deliver what they need and you've preempted that, you are in a different league to everybody else. Because everybody else can run little, pop-up little events, but they're not creating that impact. They're not creating that shared experience because they've never addressed the actual needs. They've just scratched the surface because it's easy, because that's the easy way to do it, because you don't have to put much thought in. When we get deeper and we connect at that level, it's not just the virtual event you produce that benefits your entire business, your offers, the way people engage with you, everything else. It's like a domino effect. You crack that need and those underlying elements, and everything else falls away as well. So it makes your life and your business so much easier. Does that make sense, guys? Put a 1 in the comments if you're following, put a 2 if you're not, and I'll kind of make a note just to kind of come back and have a look and see if we've got any comments to address. Let me just hit the comments section and just have a little look. Somebody's laughing at my nana nap. Yes. Carolyn's catching the replays. Somebody said he's a tool. Yeah, I call trolls out. You guys know, if somebody trolls me, I'll call them out. It doesn't faze me. Yeah, okay, so Facebook users saying, well, great. So our audience is the most critical part of it. And you'll notice that as part of today's topic, we talk about this whole dream date. Because let's just bring this into this context again. If we're hosting a party, we're hosting this event, it's a party at our home. And I want you to really drill into, because every time we think virtual event, we need to think of that and make it that level of personal for our audience. Okay, it needs to be professional at a very high level of professional. And again, inside Experience Event Masterclass, We teach you how to do all of that. It does not look like a home production, trust me. But the relationship with the audience is like somebody you'd invite to your home. Now, when we're doing that and we're hosting an event, we have to compete with a lot, because at the moment, especially, our audience are at home. They're at their home, which means that they're comfy. They've got all their gadgets around them. They've got all of their distractions. Life is happening around them. And we need to be very respectful of that as a host, because we need to understand that we need to hook them in so that they create date night with us. Because most people, unless they're in a very dysfunctional relationship with whatever they, whoever they're having date night, even if it's with themselves, and having a bit of self-care day, most people will schedule that time out and they will treat it as precious. And that's what we want your audience to do with your event. We want them to treat it like it's precious. It's important, and they want to carve that time out. And this is something that if you ever see huge launches where, you're kind of signing up for a year, particularly when people do mastermind launches. This is one of my pet peeves. They do this huge mastermind launch and suddenly your entire life is taken over for the next year. And it's kind of like, wow, you need me to schedule all this time for you? I need to find this time? Shit, where's that time coming from? I've got a life. And this is the thing, when you are hosting something, you need to think about your audience and where they're going to get the time. How are we going to make it so they want to carve the time out to spend with us? Because there's no point producing something, there's no point hosting something and inviting speakers to take part and sponsors if you're going down that route. We'll talk more about that on Saturday. Okay, we don't want to be doing all of that if we don't know that the audience want to turn up, because they haven't viewed it as a priority. So again, we have to treat our audience and get them thinking about our event as it's a date. This is something where we get dressed up for. Like my audience, I love if they turn up in their PJs. It's cool, and if they want to get dressed up and do a bit of a Zoom kind of jam for virtual drinks, cool. If they want to turn up in their PJ top, that is also cool. But we need to make it so that they feel comfortable to come and do that. And it's about how we woo them, okay? Because we want our audience to kind of fall in love with us, just as we kind of love friends and family and things. We want them to kind of have that relationship, and we want to have that in reverse. And I was talking to a lady yesterday, and she was talking about technology and being afraid of, how many tools this might take and being afraid of using tech. First of all, inside Experience Event Masterclass, we will teach you all the technology you need, and we will do over the shoulder. This is how you do it step by step. And we go through that. And we have a core, there is some core tech that we use, and we use it because it makes life very simple. But then we have this almost toolkit. I like to think of myself with my kind of little artist kind of pad there and all my little paintbrushes. And if I want to create this flare, I would get a certain brush out. If I want to do a certain sketch, I would get a certain pencil out. It's the same thing with our technology. Depending on the experiences that you need to create for your audience, because of the research that you've done, because of the definition that we've put in there, that's where we then think, right, our audience need this. Either this tool can do it as part of the core set, or we go get another tool and we deploy it. And we explain, and we have that inside EEM where we have a breakdown of each of the tools that you need, depending on what you need. And we go through inside of the group coaching, inside of Implementation Lab, hang on a second, guys. If you want to create that experience, then this tool would be perfect. But, don't feel that you have to if you need to create an experience over here. It's about how we do that, because we need our audience to almost be like Netflix and chill kind of mode. And get your head out of the gutter. I didn't mean it that way, guys. Netflix and chill, where we chill on the sofa and we put it on, we do Apple AirPlay for those of us that are now really tech savvy, where we can literally get them. So they're sitting maybe with a glass of wine or whatever their choice of beverage is, and they are comfy watching our streams, watching our pre-recorded sessions, opening them emails, taking part in things. We want them to be doing that. It's almost, can we get them to do that on a Friday night? If we can get to that level, then your event is going to be a hit. Okay, if you are wanting to do retreats, I know somebody mentioned retreats in their homework. With a retreat, we want them to do that not just once, but we want them to do it like 3 days in a row. How do we do that? What tools can we deploy, and what techniques can we deploy to make that happen? Because the audience have to feel like you understand them at that deeper level. I'm just going to quickly check the comments. I can see them scrolling away out of the corner of my eyes. Yeah, if you want me to be able to put your comment on screen, guys, because I know that Team Lindsay just pointing this out. If you want any of those comments to come on screen, do make sure that you just click to grant StreamYard permission. I've yet to work out how to turn this off, but if not, just put your name in the comments. If you don't want to grant StreamYard permission, just put your name and I'll make sure that I call it out and then we can see. So that's that one. So building relationships is key. We have to do this with the audience and we have to dive into the specifics for them. Okay, if we were hosting it as a party in our home, and I do use this analogy a lot because it's really important we drill this in. Okay, if we're doing this and it was a party at home, it would be things like, we know, for example, every year I have a party, a bonfire night, Guy Fawkes night for all you guys over in the US. And what we do is, because it's held opposite my home, there's a huge event. I get tickets for all my friends and they all come after work. And we do like a bring a pot. So it's kind of like a potluck party and everybody comes. Now, at a party, when somebody turns up late, you kind of assume they're going to want to catch up and you're going to want to give them a drink. Basic kind of hostess rule 101, right? You give them a drink. I know, because I know some of the people that come, that they might think they want a drink. But I also know, because their wives will give me a good sharp kick if I didn't, that they don't want a drink really. They really want a coffee to keep them awake so they're not going to fall asleep while we're watching fireworks. And that's where we have to understand what we put out for our audience and what we actually need to give them and what we need to have on hand for them to be that host. And it's bringing that experience. And, we're talking a lot about experiences obviously in these live streams. And I know somebody said to me yesterday, what type of experiences do you cover? And I don't want to dive too much into each and every strategy because that could take us weeks to cover every single one, which may not be relevant. But I try and bring this into kind of real world scenarios that you guys can see and see how we kind of need to do that virtually so you can follow along. So in terms of the audience and your workbook, just to kind of flag that one up for you. So being able to kind of deliver that experience for the audience, being able to have it so that they feel heard is critical. And we've got these 5 key points in the workbook of the audience breakdown. And I want you to think about the people that you're talking to, the people that you think are in your audience right now. And again, guys, if you're coming inside EEM, we will dive into this in so much detail. But right now, I want you to think about the people that are listening, even if you think they aren't, okay? Think about the types of people that are there. They want to feel heard. Rule 101, they really want to feel heard. So you have to make sure that you understand them. You have paid attention to the issues that are griping at them. You understand why, when they've bought things from other people, when they've taken part in other experiences, why they hated it, what really irked them, what made them go, oh, that's frustrating. And what made them just go, oh, that slightly irritated me, but it's not enough to stop me. Okay, you need to understand that and make sure for point 1 that they feel heard. Okay. Number 2 is that our audiences, they need a leader they feel they can connect with. And this comes back to you showing up as yourself. And for introverts particularly, or anybody who can feel a bit shy, this can be really scary because we're asking you to show up and connect with people that you just might not really like that idea. It might be like, oh, okay, don't make me do that, Lindsay. Okay, first of all, inside EEM, we do have tips and techniques that we can use to make that feel more natural. Okay, there's loads of them because I use them all the time myself. Okay, and we've got mindset people that will help around this. But your audience need to be able to feel like they can connect. Okay, it is why the rise of social media influencers has been so prevalent over the last decade, because suddenly we've gone from having these people that we can see on a screen on TV, these celebrities that we can't touch, we can't talk to, we have no relationship with beyond what they are pumping out, to, my gosh, these guys answer. I can send them DMs. Some people go a bit further and send some very naughty DMs, but we can contact them, we can send them things. We need to have a leader, and you need to be that leader for your audience where they feel connected. And sometimes that means stepping away from corporate. Now, corporate is this, you might feel that you have to hide behind it. Give me a 1 in the comments if you feel that you have to kind of, or you feel a bit corporate still, because this is a big thing. And I just want to know, for those who are watching, who still feels like that, who feels like they are putting out there for corporate. Because when you come from a professional background, it's kind of this thing you feel like you've got to do. And I see people, they either go and hide behind little cartoon characters of themselves, or they go full on corporate and they look like they're in the power suit, they're dressing for kind of 7-figure success, and it's great, but they're not being authentic. They're not connecting. And this is the problem that you see a lot of the time with people who do market like that and look successful, is 9 times out of 10, and I have a lot of these in our client base, where they are swimming so hard beneath the surface because actually they've got no connection to the audience. They've just worked their way through sheer hustle and grind. And that's obviously not what you want when you're growing a business. So you have to be able to connect and be that leader. And that can mean that you show off that part of you. You show off maybe some of the vulnerabilities. For me, I'm a tech geek. Do I press buttons sometimes and press things wrong? Yes. Do I sometimes get my teeth all caught up because I'm going blah, 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 blah? Yes, I do. But do I care? No, because it's part of me, and it's being able to show that and not being that what we would call an NLP, that high cat personality, where you're kind of sitting there poised, ready to kind of fight for your life. It's being much more open. The old advert here in the UK used to be more dog, which is where you're kind of more chillaxed about it. And it's being that ability to have that receivership so you can connect with the audience, because they will not connect if you come across as that teacher, that authority, and that dictator. They will just see it as a robot. And in a world where people feel like they're being automated, they're being funneled, if people do not connect with you and they feel like you are behaving like a robot, when you're trying to define that audience and build the relationship, it's just not going to happen. And it's not going to happen because you're not talking about the right stuff. It's just the connection isn't there. So you've got to look at that. You've got to look at how you can, even if you just choose to emphasize a part of your personality, to bring something forward so that you've got something to talk about. For me, quite often, I will put red lipstick on, because some days when I'm really low energy, I'll be like, oh, right, because it's an instant hit. I know people where Dorian, she's a beautiful person. She always has orange glasses. She's got a whole selection that hang up behind her kind of background, where she's wearing, she puts different ones on. Or, Lee Rowley, a very great friend of mine, always has different bow ties. You sometimes bring forward a part of yourself that's that little quirk so your audience can connect. But you've got to understand what you want to show to your audience, because you have to, it's okay to define them and to be able to call them in. But when you call them, there's got to be somebody there to answer. There's got to be that person, and that person's got to be you. And it's got to be you being authentic, not trying to put on airs and graces, not trying to change who you are because some coach said so. It is you being you to your audience, because your audience will give you way more leeway and way more flex than you will ever dream possible, because you are you. Okay. An example of that would be way back when I had the big e-commerce empire and we were doing, thousands of orders per day. One of the things that would happen is I would do customer service, and because I was the business owner, if I had to jump in and kind of do some training and I had to fill something in, I'd put it in perfect corporate speak, because we were coming across as that professional entity. And one of my assistants would she'd just talk as she did. And it was always really funny, because people would respond thinking that I was being a robot and being automatic, and they would be really amazing with her. And it was one of those things that we realized over time was, even just in terms of support, being that open. When she was open about things, people would give her that flex. They would be, oh yeah, don't worry about it. Whereas if I'm so sorry, we didn't reply within 2 minutes, they would be, oh my gosh, you didn't reply. And it's because of that connection. It's because of being human. Okay. For me, one of the things that I had to learn, this is going back, oh gosh, about 10, 12 years now, I had to learn the hard way that I needed to be open. I needed to be willing to be vulnerable. But being vulnerable doesn't mean you get walked all over either. It means that you say, this is my people, this is who I'm talking to, this is the audience that I know I've defined and that I love and they love me. And if other people come along the sidelines, it's okay. We can just go, bye-bye, don't need you, bye-bye, because that's okay. And you feel that and you get that level of confidence because you've properly defined the audience. And when you've properly defined the audience and you've defined that into your event, it makes everything so much easier. One of the biggest reasons why virtual events will flop, or any event will flop, is because your audience do not feel that connection to you and to the way that you're talking to them. So that is point number 2. Point number 3 is that your audience, when we're talking about them, you need to just get your head around this, because so many people don't. Your audience actually wants to work together. Those individual people that don't know each other want to be connected because they share the same passion, they share the same interests. They want to be able to talk and have that free right to talk, but they need somebody who's going to put them in the center to do that. So it's a bit like herding sheep or herding cats, as I say. Okay, you've got to be able to kind of get everybody in one place. That's your job as a host, is to get everybody together and to just pop a few little icebreakers in there, because then your audience will do the rest. They will talk. They will talk to each other and they will bring their own experiences. They will go and say, hang on, if it was a party at home, it might be, oh, we've run out of wine. I'll nip to the shops, I'll go get some. That could be a random stranger who's just come as a friend of a friend, but that happens. And it happens because suddenly people have connected, they've built those relationships, and your job is to host and create those kind of starting points for the relationships, because that's, if you want your audience to connect with you, you have to make it so they can connect with each other. Okay, it is not just them being an island. It is you are creating an audience that is so powerful and so diehard that they don't mind queuing to come to see you in an event. They don't mind traveling halfway across the world to come see you in person, because you've taken your virtual event and you've brought it into the real world, into the physical world, because they know that they can stand in that queue and talk to their friend and just have a good gas. They can have a good catch up because they've built that relationship. So you need to be thinking, when you're defining your audience, what makes these people talk to each other? What is it that they talk to each other about? Not just what are they going to talk to me about, but what will they talk to each other about? And again, this is something most people miss. And when you're thinking about your audience and defining them, if you can get them talking, that's part of the battle. Because when people start talking, it may not be that, you might have a person come to your events, your virtual events, who they see what you're saying, they hear you, but that isn't what sticks. What sticks is that really random conversation that they had with this total stranger. But that's still a shared event and it's connected to your virtual event. So when they recall that stranger or that conversation, you come top of mind as well. And it's that association. So it's all about how we connect people as well. So you've got to think about this. When we're thinking about experiences, we're thinking about our audience, we are thinking about all of this, because that's the difference between us and creating experience events and just creating an event where we're using direct marketing, where we are saying to, if we're being direct marketers and doing hardcore, the typical virtual summits where it's like, do you need this? Yes or no? If you say no, you're a bad person. Do you need this? Yes or no? If you say no, you're a bad person. Because that's how we guilt our audience into coming. That's how we guilt them into turning up, because they might need some of this, but there's still that element of guilt and shame because they didn't say yes to that big upsell. And your audience will feel that and they will really start to get resentful. There will be a pocket that get resentful and they do become vocal. And that's what we don't want. That's why we don't want to create events like every other Tom, Dick and Harry out there that's just popping up and going, yeah, I can do this. That's why we don't, because we do not want to bring that into our businesses, because that does not a healthy, scalable business make. So that is point number 3. Point number 4 we've talked about, okay, for your workbook. For point number 4 on the bullet point list, we've talked about wooing them, making our audience fall in love with us because we are open to them. We know what it is they want. Okay, so it might be that we joke about, oh yeah, everyone get your PJs on. Let's see who's got the jazziest PJs. Let's see who can do things. I watched a wonderful stream, because I do lots and lots of other event research and look at other people's events as part of what we're doing, because I'm always open. And I saw a wonderful one a couple of weeks back now, where it was a guy. And it was a guy as part of a huge Zoom room. And every time your eye was drawn to him. And it was drawn to him because he knew how to connect with his audience, because there was all sorts of different kind of little pockets of audience there. And this guy was wearing a unicorn onesie, okay? Bright blue, purple kind of hair coming down, unicorn onesie. And everybody else is there, dressed like Zoom cash, and he's there in this unicorn onesie. And this is a really serious guy. It's actually an actor, really serious guy. But he knew how to connect because he was able to kind of swish around. And it was obvious that actually he's quite an introverted person, but it gave him that coverage. He had a character he could play. And it's those little techniques that you can use as well to kind of help you. But it's looking at, well, how do we woo them? How do we get it so that they kind of go, oh, look, they dressed up for me? Because apparently that was an insider's joke. The guy, he'd done that because it was a joke from something in his previous kind of biography. I said, okay, building those things in, building in those relationships where your audience kind of go, oh, they've dressed up, they've made the effort, they've done something different. Even if it's not you've dressed up in a shirt and tie, but you've done something different. That's the key. It's, have you made your audience feel like you've made an effort, like you actually really want to show them that you care, or are you treating them like those direct response marketers where you're just saying either you love me and get your credit card out, or you're a naughty person, you don't really want this. You know, the people, you know, the ones that normally if you see them selling, they'll be like, if you don't sell your entire life and you don't sell your house and your car to buy into working with me, then you don't want this enough. Those types of people, the types of people where it's like, no, I don't love myself enough to buy that £50,000 bottle of shampoo. It's those types of direct response marketers. That's what we don't want to become. And that's the way a lot of virtual events are set up, because a lot of people teach it that way. And that's just because it's the lazy way of doing it. You don't have to worry so much. The problem is that you don't end up with an audience that sticks around, and that audience are definitely not engaged. You can make far more when you build the experience, and it makes far more long-term when you look at the data behind it. You make far more over the longer period of time because your audience are staying with you. You're not having to constantly drive new people in, because your audience are willing to go through your value ladder and willing to work with you on more and more expensive levels with more involvement, because they know that you are creating and you are delivering what you said you will, and you've got that relationship. So that's critical. And point number 5, again, we've touched on here, but it is just for the benefit of the workbook, it is those shared experiences. We have to create something where our audience can have a laugh. They can kind of recall something, and we can recall it at any point as we're talking to our audience, even a year later, and everyone will kind of just crack a little smile and go, oh yeah, forgot about that. That can be things like, if we're at a real world a conference, it could be we all stood outside waiting for a taxi and it rained and everybody who'd done their hair just got ruined, but we all stood there and laughed anyway. It could be, you know, we all went and checked in at that hotel. Oh my gosh, did we all stand for 6 hours waiting to be checked in? And you can take a negative and turn that shared experience into a positive, because you can make a joke of it, because you've pre-planned how you're going to deal with it. How are we going to create those experiences? And how are we going to, if there is anything negative that just comes up, because that's a big fear for most people, how are we going to have a deflection already planned? What is our, okay, we've got this. Okay, what's our kind of cat out of the bag situation? That is how we create our audience, and we define them in a way that goes beyond what the competition are doing. Okay, by taking the things we've talked about today, that is where we start to define them and build on them. And that's how we attract in the right audience. So we don't have to waste years, and it can be years and years that people waste, where they're trying to attract one tribe and they put all their effort in for 3 months and then go, didn't work. I'll try this tribe. And then they go after that, and then it didn't work. And then they go after this one and this one. We can cut all that down just by doing it properly the first time, by really getting in there and looking at the audience. And that's the first part of that success. The second part, like we say, is all around really making it so that they want to Netflix and chill with us. And they want to Netflix and chill as a priority, and will actually schedule that time in and keep it because they want to be with us as the leader, as the expert, because they might not perceive us as even having value. If you are new and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not that expert, that's cool. Your audience might not perceive you straight away as having that expertise, but they will perceive you as somebody they want to spend time with. And that is critical. That's how we develop things. Okay, so we need to woo our audience into those relationships by understanding them, by going beyond the norm for them. And we need to define them to that level of depth that we can have those relationships and craft those experiences for them, because that's when you show your audience you love them by creating these little experiences, these little pockets, that's when they kind of go, wow, yeah, she gets me, he gets me. When they can do that, when your audience go, wow, and they just take that intake of breath, that will carry you through so much. And that is when they suddenly switch from being just a member of the audience to suddenly they are your sales agent, because they are going to go tell everybody else about you because they appreciate everything that you're doing. Okay? That's the level that we want to define our audience to. That is the relationship we must have with them. Does anybody have any thoughts on this? I'm just going to quickly go and grab some of the comments. Let's go have a little look. What do people think in terms of relationships with things? Chris is obviously talking here about health. Yeah, things are life experiences. Connecting with people about their life experience and talking to them about your experiences are great, but creating a shared experience is better. That's the key thing there. I'm not getting everybody's comments. I've got a little kind of alert here upon on things that some of you are not, some of the audience comments are not coming through from certain destinations. I don't know what that's going on for, but hey ho, it's fine. We'll deal with it. So guys, if you've got any thoughts, let me know if you want that level of relationship with your audience, because I don't want you to be scared here and go, oh, it sounds like a commitment. It's not. It's having a really, really cool group of friends that you can just go hang out with whenever you want. And you can kind of rock up and go, hey, it's you, high five. Isn't this amazing? Is that you? Does that feel right for your audience? If that does, put a 1 in. If you're thinking, oh, okay, Lindsay, this is something different, I have to think about this, that's cool. Okay, let's just talk about the kind of the homework for today. And you guys, I haven't had a chance today because I did have a nana nap to come chase you up. So I will be chasing you up for homework tomorrow. Because my plan is I'm going to have a really good long sleep today. And then I'm going to be on it tomorrow chasing you up, because I don't want my team to do that. I want to come and spend some time with you. So homework for today in the workbook is I want you to think about your audience and in 5 to 7 sentences, because this is where you start to get a bit more specific. That's why I've said 5 to 7. I want you to tell me what you know about them so far. Who are they? What are they actually struggling with? Or what do you think they're struggling with? Why do they want help right now? And what is it that they actually want? If you can tell me those 4 things, and you can tell me in 5 to 7 sentences, then you are already a lot further down the audience definition route than you may feel. So have a look at that. Let me know. In terms of what do your audience really want? I want you to think about this and just loop back to it. You know what your audience actually think they want, but what is it that they really want? Go deeper. What is it they really want? What is it you think that you need to deliver to them? Okay, and then number 3 here is, if you were delivering this point, and let's say that your audience actually really wanted, let's use health as an example, because Chris has put that comment in there. Let's say that your audience, because I spoke to somebody the other day and they were talking about pain. They're a pain expert. When it comes to that, do your audience want to be out of pain? Well, yes, everybody does. Is that a reality that you're going to be able, you as an expert can make happen for everybody? No, but can you make it so they are heard and they find ways to connect with other people and it normalizes what's going on for them in a positive way? Yes, you can. In which case, if you were to deliver something like that, how would you make it so that they would make a date with you to have that relationship, to turn up to an event where you're teaching them how to do that? How would you do that? Would it be that you would send them some nice relaxing elements in advance? Would it be that you would try and connect them with other people, that you try and build a forum to begin with? What would it be? What would that feel like if you were to create a date for them? For me, for example, if I was creating a retreat, I had this conversation with a lady the other day. She was talking about creating a virtual retreat, and in her real life one, she'd had a zone at the back. She's really already on it, very, very much lady. She had a zone at the back where people were doing massages. And I said, well, that's really easy. You could have it so they can bring a buddy and you can have timed little gifts. And one of the things is that they could get a little Zoom lesson scheduled in the day where them and their buddy can have, somebody teach them how to do hand massage, and they could do hand massages with each other. Because if you're planning it as a 3-day retreat where it's much more high end, it's much more in depth, you could do things like that. What would yours be? So pop that into your homework. Have a little think, pop it into your homework. If you don't feel comfortable posting it on the post in the group, feel free to DM me. It's fine. I do pick up all my DMs, and we'll have a look at that as well. So that's the homework for today. Thank you to those who did pop their homework already on for day 2. Like I say, I'll be coming and chasing the rest of you. And if anyone's got any thoughts or questions, like I say, do hit them up there. For me, a big part of what we're doing now is really just touching upon some of the topics that we actually talk about inside Experience Event Masterclass. And the reason for that is because we're not just building the Experience Event Masterclass is not just a 6-month business incubator. It's not. It's more than that. It's not where we're just building a summit or we're building a giveaway or virtual events. You are in to learn how to define your audience. So we are setting you up for success. We're not going to let you fall on your face. You are going to learn about creating those back-end offers so that actually the offer is aligned with the audience. It's not just, oh, I think I might offer this. We're aligning that up together. We're making sure that you've got the techniques so that you are able to be a good host. You're able to then craft and use our framework to craft these experiences so that they're timed and they go off without a hitch for your audience to create that shared experience. And we're teaching you how to do all of that, as well as increase your revenues, as well as all of those opportunities. And we're then creating these events and we're teaching you how to create the events. So there is so much more inside this than just creating a summit. And the reason for that is because I've seen firsthand, and we get students from other people who are just teaching how to create summits or how to create giveaways, how to do that. We get those students come to my agency and begging us to produce their events because they are confused, they are lost, they don't get it, they're afraid, there's too much overwhelm. That's why we do what we do. And that's why Experience Event Masterclass is built the way it is, so that it collects and supports you far more, because we need that. There's no point putting your effort into producing an event when you don't know what's happening next. When your speakers or your contributors are messaging you and saying, so what happens next? What's happening? And you're saying, I don't know, I'll have to go check. It should all be planned. It should be produced properly. You should be able to feel in control of every part of it and not running around like a headless chicken, being stressed because you don't know what you're doing, being stressed because you don't know how you're going to get to revenue, being stressed because you don't think your audience actually wants to hear from you or they don't want to buy from you. We cover all of that so it is put together seamlessly, and it is designed to turbocharge your business so you are scaling up and growing in a controlled manner. We're not just spray and pray with kind of market here, market there, market everywhere. We're doing a very targeted, very specific approach that will deliver that. And the key aspect is making that experience for you, for your audience, and your speakers, making that above and beyond what everybody else is doing, because you don't want to be like everybody else. You have a gift, you have a purpose, you have a passion, you have a duty to serve your audience at that higher level, and you deserve to position yourself there, and your audience deserve to see you there as that expert. And to do that, we have to make it so that you're able to play and operate at that higher level. And that is by controlling the way we do things and really solidifying all of the business. That's why it's a 6-month masterclass and it's a 6-month incubator, because we're going over all of that. And most importantly, we are making sure that you have that time with us. Somebody said to me yesterday, do I get time? What happens on coaching? And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you guys. So I'm just going to quickly tell you that when we're coaching inside Experience Event Masterclass, what we're doing is we're making sure that you have time. So on that group coaching call once a week, everybody gets a chance. If you think, oh, I'm not going to be able to, like we had somebody pop on earlier who couldn't watch the live stream, they're going to catch the replay. Cool. If you know that you're only going to be able to attend part of a session, you can book in and book that slot so we know that you need a session time, and we'll go till those questions are answered. It's not a case of, because it really irks me when people do this, you pay for something, they promise you group coaching, and then the host only ever asks certain people, and they ask the certain people the same questions over and over again, or they answer them because they're afraid to talk about the other things because they maybe don't know it. And that really irks me, because when you are buying in to a program, you should be getting that support. And that's what we do inside Experience Event Masterclass. Now, guys, you will get an email because I pre-planned it through the powers of I'm going to bed at a decent time today, because I'm a Brit. It's like 10 p.m. my time. So because of that, you will get an email from me. It is going to tell you all about Experience Event Masterclass. It's going to have a link to go over, and I'm going to put it on screen as well, because You know, why wouldn't I? There we go. I'll put the ticker tape on. Go have a look at it and go check it out, because the bonuses are going to expire. There are going to be 2 expiring tomorrow, 11:59 p.m. Pacific. They expire. That is not a go check 3 minutes later and see if they're still there, because our technology is going to be doing all the heavy lifting and expiring them automatically for us. So there's nobody going to be waiting up till that time and just pressing a button. It will auto expire. So do make sure, if you're planning on joining us, that you have got in if you want to get those bonuses. Okay, so make sure that you check it out. I'm going to sign off now. Tomorrow, just so you know, we are going through one of the key bits really for me, which is we're going through what your audience really needs, the deeper part, and how we use that to rapidly scale. So we're starting to talk about offers here. Saturday, we're talking about revenue. So make sure you put that one in your diary, because Saturday it's all about revenue and how you can use these events to create revenue, because I know that's something that some people are still not clear on. So I'm going to sign off for now, and then any questions, just DM me, guys, pop me in the comments. I'm here and I will support you through any queries that you've got around creating your virtual events and joining us inside Experience Event Masterclass. Make sure that you join before those bonuses expire. All right, ciao for now, guys. Bye.